Hello students. So we are back with another video regarding cell biology. The first video had shown us the basic features of an eukaryotic cell. That what are the generalized features found in an eukaryotic cell, and then we had a discussion about the structure of cell membrane. We discussed three models of cell membrane structure and we gave emphasis on fluid mosaic model, which is the most accepted one. Now in today's lecture, we would be knowing about, as you can see the screen displays, modifications of cell membrane. Modifications in what sense? Structural modifications. That means according to location, according to function, the cell membrane can modify itself into various shapes or into certain specialized structural forms so that that particular function can be carried out. So as you can see, I have already shown over here, the first modification is microvilli. Now these things are important when you are aspiring for some kind of competitive examinations. It can be your NTSC, the National Talent Search examination. It can be your medical entrance examination, that is NEET. So microvilli, what are these? Microvilli are basically found in cells of intestines or in the lining of the uriniferous tubules. What are uriniferous tubules? Nephrons. Simply speaking, nephrons. What happens is the cell membrane projects into folds. Now if I try to show you something, suppose over here if I draw, how can it look like? The cell membrane will turn into folds like this. Like this. So each such fold will be called a villus. So if I write down over here, each such fold will be known as villus. Microvilli. Villi is the plural form. So the projections are not very big, so that is why the name microvilli. How do they help the cell? Now you see, if the folds are like this, if this is the fold, what is happening is it is increasing the surface area, isn't it? It is increasing the surface area so that absorption can take place effectively. What kind of absorption are we talking about? If it is a nephron, then absorption of usable materials, definitely. Usable materials like glucose, amino acids, water. So for absorption of these usable metabolites or usable substances, the lining of nephron should have these microvilli. Again, in case of intestine, what happens? The digested food is absorbed from the cells of the intestine to blood. That absorption will also be possible when such villi are there. So basically microvilli, their main function is to facilitate absorption. Okay. Now next, if we come to the next structure, tight junctions, which is also known as zonula occludens. Now this is another kind of modification of cell membrane, and then I have written another one, and that is gap junction. I'll show you one picture of gap junction. So this is basically a picture of gap junction. What is happening is, see, this is one cell membrane, this one. This is another cell membrane. That means this is one cell and this is another cell. In between two cells, this is the intercellular space. Now, if the two cells need to communicate with each other, what do we mean by communicate? Communicate means, suppose from one cell, certain substances need to pass into the next cell. So there should be some passage, there should be some pathway through which this communication is possible. So those pathways or those channels are called gap junctions, as if they are a junction between gaps, the gaps between the two cells. Now basically these gap junctions are nothing but protein channels. They are also called nexons. Okay, if I write down, I think it would be easier for you. They are also called nexons. Okay. So if I write over here, they are also called nexons. So what happens is, these nexons, they are formed of proteins called connexins. Okay, I'm writing down over here connexins. So these connexins, they are intracellular junctions through which substances from one cell can pass into another cell. Okay, so these are gap junctions. Now, another kind of intracellular junction between two cell membrane, you can see, is tight junction. So if I again go back to the pictures, so the tight junctions, basically they look like this. What happens is, see, this is one cell membrane, this is one cell membrane, and this is another cell membrane. Follow the cursor, it will be easier for you. This is one cell membrane, this is another cell membrane. What happens is, the two cell membranes, as if they are sewed with one another, as if they are stitched. So they are sealed, and they are sealed by certain proteins which are called the sealing strands. So basically these are two cell membranes which are sealed at certain points. Over here there is a stitching, here there is a stitching. These are the sealing strands. So this forms a kind of communication between two cells. So gap junctions and tight junctions, these are two very important modifications of cell membrane. Okay. Now, next, the topic we are going to discuss is a very important topic, and it is about membrane transport. We have learned that there should be some passage, there should be some channel through which substances can pass from one cell to another. Now suppose a substance from extracellular medium, that is from outside the cell, wants to come in, or a substance from within the cell wants to go out. How will that be possible? So that will be possible by membrane transport, by certain processes. So the first process that we are going to discuss about is passive transport. What is passive transport? Passive means the process which does not require any kind of energy. So in passive transport, energy in the form of ATP is not required for any substance to come into the cell or go out of the cell. Energy not required. So passive transport can be of two types. It can be diffusion, it can be facilitated diffusion. Now diffusion, you have learnt in your lower classes that diffusion is movement of a substance. It can be a solute, it can be a solvent, from its higher concentration to its lower concentration. That means the substance will diffuse from its higher concentration zone to its lower concentration zone. So as it is taking place along the concentration gradient, so no energy is required. So that is simply diffusion, simple diffusion. What kind of substances can undergo this simple diffusion? Fat soluble substances. Why so? Because in the previous video I had discussed that the lipid bilayer, it allows fat soluble substances to pass through it easily. So that is why fat soluble substances, it can be a hormone or it can be some other fat soluble substance, can easily pass through the lipid bilayer, phospholipid bilayer. Okay, and certain channels are there in the cell membrane which are called ionophores, which allow certain ions to pass through, charged ions, charged particles to pass through, or even water to pass through from their high concentration region to their low concentration region. Okay, so that is all about simple diffusion. Why is it called simple? Now we are going to understand. So the next is facilitated. Now the word facilitated means being helped. That means diffusion is being helped by something. What is that something? So see over here, carrier mediated transport. So this kind of diffusion needs the help of a carrier. Without carrier, it is not possible. Okay, so and that carrier is a protein. That carrier is a protein. So we can refer to certain images like this one. Facilitated diffusion. What is being shown over here? This is a metabolite. What is a metabolite? A metabolite is any substance which is formed as a result of metabolism. Okay? Either it can be an end product or it can be a substance which will help in synthesis of new substances. So those are called metabolites. So metabolite, what happens is, this is the cell membrane. The cell membrane has got a carrier protein attached to it. Metabolite comes and lodges itself to the carrier, forms a carrier metabolite complex, as you can see. Now once this carrier metabolite complex is formed, then the carrier can carry the metabolite from this part of the membrane to the other part of the membrane. So this was outside the membrane and this is inside. So this is how the metabolite, which could not have passed, it takes the help of the carrier and then crosses the membrane, goes to the other side of the membrane. Now why does it need this carrier? Because such a metabolite must be a hydrophilic substance. Hydrophilic means water loving, which means it will not be able to pass through the lipid bilayer because it's not soluble in lipid. So it needs a special carrier protein, which often is known as permease. Since it's permitting, giving permission, so the name permease. So that will help the metabolite to cross the membrane. But this happens without expense of any kind of energy. From its high concentration, the metabolite passes or travels to its low concentration. So what is the main driving force of this process, if you are asked? No energy is required. There is nothing acting as a pump, giving a force. Then what is the driving force? The driving force for this process is nothing but the concentration gradient. And let me tell you one more thing. The carrier proteins are also of low molecular weight. Okay, so this is all about facilitated diffusion. Now, so this is all about passive transport. Now coming to active transport, active means energy required, which means the cell has to spend some amount of ATP, adenosine triphosphate, otherwise transport is not possible. Now this again is of two types, carrier mediated and carrier independent. Now if it is a carrier mediated process, how the process takes place? See, I have written in a simple equation manner. Carrier protein plus transportant equals to carrier transportant complex, which means the carrier protein, it binds with the transportant, forms a complex. Let me show you one picture. So see, this is active transport with the help of a carrier. What is happening? This is the solute. This one is solute. This is the carrier molecule, and you can see attached to the carrier molecule is ATP, adenosine triphosphate. Now what happens is this solute, it binds with the carrier. See, it has bound with the carrier and it has formed a carrier solute complex or carrier transportant complex. Transportant means which has to be transported. So transportant complex. Once this complex is formed, then what happens? ATP gets hydrolyzed. So one phosphate bond is cleaved. Cleaved means cut, snapped. And ADP is left behind. So this phosphate bond is cleaved, ADP is left behind, and due to this, the carrier protein or the permease, it undergoes a structural transformation, a structural change, a conformational change, and then the transportant or the solute, it reaches the other side of the membrane and then goes inside the cell. So this is all about active transport across a cell membrane using a carrier. First is carrier binding with the solute, then ATP hydrolyzed, then carrier undergoing a structural change, and then the solute passing to the other side of the membrane and then getting inside the cell. Clear? So this is all about carrier mediated active transport. Now, the next is carrier independent active transport. Carrier independent. Now, before going to that, I would also like to tell you one thing. This was carrier mediated. Now, it can be of two types. The carrier mediated active transport can be of two types: primary and secondary. Now, primary active transport will be best exemplified by sodium potassium pump. Sodium potassium pump. Now, what is that? So, this is the picture. So the darker pink region is this lighter pink region is the membrane, this part. This is also membrane, and here it's cytoplasm. Suppose a nerve fiber, axon. When the axon is at rest, that means when it is not stimulated by an impulse, then what happens? Inside the membrane, there is a higher negative charge, and outside the membrane, there is a higher positive charge. This is called resting membrane potential. It is true for nerve fibers, it is true for muscle fibers also. Because both nerve fibers and muscle fibers, they use this sodium potassium pump for transmission of either nerve impulse or impulse during muscular contraction. Both of them. So what happens is, when the nerve fiber or the muscle cell membrane is at rest, I told you, inside is more negative, outside is more positive. Why? That is because when it is at rest, mind my words, when it is at rest, three sodium ions move out of the cell across the membrane. In exchange, two potassium ions move into the cell. Follow the arrows. Sodium ions are going out, potassium ions are coming in. So this is called sodium potassium pump. Why pump? Because when it is taking place, it needs energy, so ATP will be hydrolyzed. And sodium, potassium, it can come in, go out through certain protein channels. So it needs a carrier also. So carrier needed, ATP needed. Okay, so this is primary active transport. If this doesn't happen, if this doesn't take place, nerve impulse will not travel, muscle will not contract. Okay, now, taking the help of this pump, what happens is, certain metabolites like glucose takes advantage of this phenomenon, because already ATP is being used, so it will get a source of energy. What will glucose do? Glucose from outside the cell will come inside. And it will take the advantage of this situation. Glucose outside the cell, suppose it is in low concentration, it needs to come in. How will it come in? It needs energy, so it will utilize this energy and it will come in. Why is it written ATPase? ATPase is an enzyme which cleaves ATP, which hydrolyzes ATP and releases energy. So, when glucose comes inside the cell, taking help of this mechanism, That is called secondary active transport. That is called secondary active transport. Okay, got it everyone? Now, two more things to be told to you. See this one. Sodium going out of the cell, potassium coming inside the cell. That means two metabolites or two ions are traveling simultaneously. So such a transport where two substances cross the membrane simultaneously, such a transport is called co-transport. Co-transport. Now, sodium is traveling in one direction, potassium is traveling in another direction, in the opposite direction. If this is the case, two substances moving in opposite directions, that is called antiport. Antiport. If it were like this, two substances moving together simultaneously in the same direction, then that would be known as symport. Symport means traveling in same direction. Antiport means traveling in opposite directions. Okay? And one more thing. Suppose if only one substance is passing, only one, then that will be known as uniport. That will be known as uniport. Okay, so this is all about active transport which needs a carrier. Now coming to active transport which does not need a carrier. That means carrier independent active transport. So that can be very well explained by two processes, and we are very acquainted with the process. If I ask you, how does an amoeba, it has got only one cell, but how does an amoeba gain its food? It has to eat, it has to survive. Does it have a mouth? No. How does it obtain its nutrition? Simple answer would be phagocytosis. If it is taking something solid, it will be phagocytosis. If it is taking something in a solution form, liquid, that will be pinocytosis. So here I have shown the two processes. Phagocytosis. What is happening is, what happens is, this one is phagocytosis, the lower one. This is the cell membrane. Okay. Suppose this is the membrane of amoeba. A solid food particle is near to the amoeba cell. What happens is, certain proteins are found near the membrane, very close to the membrane, and those proteins are called actin myosin. Now students, we have learned that actin and myosin are proteins which help in muscle contraction. Till now we had this knowledge, but actually, go back to class 10. There you had learned one animal cell divides by cleavage formation. Remember that? Cell membrane invaginates, cleavage, constriction. How is it possible? Actin myosin. So near to the cell membrane, actin myosin proteins are there which helps the membrane to invaginate. Invaginate means to project inwards. That creates a pocket-like structure, you can see. And slowly what happens is, the solid food particle, it enters into this pocket-like structure. Okay, and then the two sides of the membrane, it encloses the solid food particle and forms a phagosome. Forms a phagosome. Now this phagosome, it will fuse with a lysosome. What is a lysosome? Lysosome is a cell organelle which helps the cell to destroy germs or to destroy itself when the cell cannot deliver its functions properly. So the phagosome, it will fuse with the lysosome and will form a phagolysosome. What is the use? Within the phagolysosome, which is over here known as digestive vacuole, lysosomes contain acidic hydrolytic enzymes. So with the help of those acidic hydrolytic enzymes, the solid food particle is digested. It is digested. Okay? And then something undigested remains. When it is digested, it gets absorbed into the cytoplasm and the cell uses that thing for its own purpose. Now, whatever is taken in is not digested. The whole is not digested. Some part remains undigested. So that undigested matter, it cannot be stored in the cell. It has to be got rid of. How to do that? So this undigested matter, this vacuole, it fuses with the cell membrane again. This time to evacuate it, to eliminate. So now the undigested part will be thrown out of the cell and the process is called ephagy. The process is called ephagy. Okay, so this is phagocytosis. Did this require any carrier? No. Did this require energy? Yes. So this kind of membrane transport requires energy in the form of ATP but doesn't require carrier. Okay, got it? Now coming to this. Same thing happening except for the fact here it was a solid food particle and here it's a fluid droplet. And this is also called cell drinking. Since it's a fluid, since it's a solution coming inside the cell, so it will be known as cell drinking. So the fluid droplet, it comes near the cell membrane invaginates, then it forms a pinosome. Pinosome is what? Basically a pinocytic vesicle initially formed which has the solution in it fused with a lysosome. So when this pocket engulfs, when this pocket encloses, draws in the fluid, it forms a vesicle which is called the pinocytic vesicle. Pinocytic vesicle fuses with a lysosome and forms a pinosome. Within pinosome, there are enzymes, as I told you. Enzymes will digest the solution. Then the pinosome will rupture. Whatever useful substances will be utilized by the cell. Whatever unuseful, not so useful or undigested substances should be thrown out. So again, the pinocytic vesicle will come to the other part of the cell membrane. It will fuse with the cell membrane. Cell membrane will rupture a little bit. It will rupture and basically the vesicle ruptures and the fluid particle, it comes out. So this is called pinocytosis. Pinocytosis or cell drinking. Cell drinking. Now both phagocytosis and pinocytosis, both of them require energy. So that is why they are called ATP mediated transport, but they do not require carrier. Okay, so this is all for today's video. Today we have completed whatever had to be done regarding cell membrane. So the next video we'll be uploading some more facts about eukaryotic cell. Okay, so see you in the next video.